Alright, and welcome back to Supermarket Together! Nagkaroon ng dalawang 2 updates later kasi may nakita ko na may dinagdag na panibagong products, may bagong perk at saka may bagong perks at bagong tingnan natin. Pagpapasa ko, 12 new electronics ang may 12 new product section ng dinagdag. That is involve electronics. May isa pang perk doon, additional na pagpapabilis daw ng mga customers. At saka may isa pa doon sa perk na involve magbawas na ng noise kuryente. Then 25 new fountain props. Fountain, okay, never saw that before. Payment is simple card at the time of 35 new materials at treatable table. Initial price, may repairs din. Which is okay. Star price which reduces electrical consumption by 20% by implementing low energy bulbs. Yee! Yee! Ika! Okay. Still those 3 have no good into gotcha. Okay, so this is requires how many discs? 2? An additional perk right here. There we go. So all we have to do is just buy these. Double A's, triple A's, 3 batteries, 9 B's, universal remote, phone chargers, basic. Woohoo! We are going to have prepaid phones for around $50. Wow, it was cheaper. Yeah, it was definitely cheaper. Basic mouse, Wi-Fi dongle, gamepad, keyboard, earbuds. Okay, so these were a bunch of hooks. and two of them were needed. Two requires box, ano to, shelves. Okay, all we have to do is just let's see, shelf. Okay, good. Okay, gamepad. Bye-bye, Todo. Basic keyboard. Earbud. Yeah, I better keep it. Okay, next, what are we missing? Okay, next. Hmm. Here it is. Mode. Okay, speak. Sino natin? Yeah, a little bit. Wait lang ah. Pinadjot. Inano doon ako saglit. Okay na, ano ka na? Okay, we're back. Huh? Ooh, how many keyboards does it fit? Okay, do we have a 9V already? Okay. Alright, I forgot I was running out. Happiness 84. Ah, these are hat numbers. And we're now open. I wonder if I could watch some YouTube. Okay, that's automatic.
TikTok's most terrifying horror creator has invaded YouTube with a series all about the demons you can find online. But these aren't just internet trolls or hate farmers. No, there's something darker going on here. And the most important thing you need to remember, don't follow that voice downstairs. Hello internets, welcome to Film Theory, the show that's not scared of commitment. And welcome back to the final week of Romance Month. Yeah, in honor of Valentine's Day, I wanted to do a bunch of videos celebrating the season of love. We've gone through the evil exes of Scott Pilgrim, the secret romance in the Book of Bill, and last week predicting the plot of Fantastic Four First Steps. But today, I wanted to go back to Film Theory's roots and dig into some true analog horror with the work of Spencer Lackey. If you don't know Spencer Lackey, you may have still seen some of the horror films in his huge body of work before. Yeah, he's actually an incredibly prolific creator of short horror and has amassed millions of followers on both TikTok and Instagram, and it's easy to see why. Spencer's work is terrifying and eye-catching, relying on horrific imagery and uncanny effects to really give you the spoops. Like for real, this stuff hits all of the right notes. But while these shorts are incredible, what I really wanted to look at today was Spencer's first take on a true long-form analog horror series, a story he calls ASL. If you don't know, outside of American Sign Language, ASL was a common acronym used in chat rooms like AIM and Skype way back in the day. And I'm now realizing that I have to explain what that is. Basically, AIM and Skype were like old school versions of Discord. Anyway, the acronym stood for Age, Sex, Location, and was shorthand for immediately getting to know the basic facts about the stranger you were talking to and what was, appropriate for the conversation. Yeah, if you think the anonymity of modern social media and Reddit threads today is wild, that was nothing compared to the sorts of chat rooms we had back in the day. Anyone or anything could be on the other side of these chat logs, and Spencer took advantage of that here in his series, creating a mystery centered on a relationship that starts on the internet. I know, hold in your gasp. Can you imagine meeting someone through the internet? But in all seriousness, the logline here, the TLDR, a boy's family disappears, but he seems way more concerned about talking to his online girlfriend than getting to the bottom of where they went. And things only get creepier by the day. The boy is plagued by holes in his memory, strange dreams, haunting voices, and of course, plenty of jump scares. Oh, did you think I was gonna jump scare you there? Well, surprise! I didn't. There's the jump scare. Anyway, of course, this mystery gets dark and may or may not involve a demonic presence haunting both this house and trolling in the chat. So rewind those tapes and log onto your favorite chat rooms, loyal theorists, as we try to find out OMG WTF is ASL. So, as always, let's start by going through the plot here to figure out what exactly is going on. Thanks to the title cards of the videos, we know that ASL takes place over 4 days in late November 1997, before a huge portion of you guys were probably born. Oh god, that's the true horror. Our main character, Victor Torrance, an aspiring filmmaker who loves making documentaries, wakes up one morning to find that his family is nowhere to be found. His older brother's door is closed, and his parents' bed appears as if no one has slept in it. And yet, as usual, Victor's mother has seemingly left a thermos of coffee out for him, so Victor's not too worried yet. Well, that is, until he starts hearing things through the house. Now, I know this sounds absolutely terrifying, but don't you worry, Victor has a plan. He's gonna call the police tomorrow. Wait, tomorrow? Dude, are you serious? Call now. Anyway, I should mention that throughout all of the main story content, there are extra little bits sprinkled in that give us more context to what's happening to Victor and the strange things around the house. For instance, we see a series of messages from one of those old-school AIM-adjacent chat rooms I mentioned earlier between two people named Beelzebubba and Sumasido613. Through context clues, it's clear that Beelzebubba is Victor, while Sumasido is a girl that he's met online. And given their back and forth, Victor is very smitten with this mystery girl, despite the fact that they haven't met IRL yet. And judging by the fact that these chat logs are labeled and categorized by the New Jersey Department of Corrections as part of an ongoing investigation, yeah, we can safely say that things don't turn out well. The next day, Victor wakes up to more of the same. His brother's door is still closed, his parents' bed untouched, and a fresh thermos of coffee waiting for him on the counter. And despite promising to call the police and the fact that his family's been missing for over 24 hours now, Victor still doesn't contact the authorities. Instead, he does what most normal people would and decides to rummage through the footage from his camcorder, though he finds more than he bargained for on one tape. There's a video where he introduces himself, but if you look closely, there's someone peeking into the video from the background. Victor himself, or some weird copy of him. On top of this, Victor is still hearing strange noises throughout the house, and yet, Victor still does nothing, and instead he can't stop thinking about his internet girlfriend. For real, dude? Your family is missing and you're definitely being haunted, and you can't stop thinking about her? You need to sort out your priorities, my man. On the third day, Thursday, November 27th, which also just so happened to be that year's Thanksgiving, Victor sits down to give us a vlog update about what's been going on.
My family has been gone for 3 days now. I should have called the police 2 days ago.
Oh, really? You think? Anyway, besides stating the obvious, Victor goes on to describe how he hasn't been able to sleep, but that the previous night he had a particularly vivid nightmare.
I was in my basement, and it was pitch black, and it was hot, like a furnace.
He then goes on to describe in great detail himself going through a series of doors and a sense of fear, knowing that something terrible was waiting for him on the other side. Unfortunately, Victor gets distracted and cuts off the vlog before he can tell us exactly how the dream ends. But that doesn't mean we don't know how the story goes. Later that day, Victor starts looking at more old videotapes and discovers one labeled Nightmare. And it's a shot-for-shot recreation of the nightmare Victor just had and just described to us, complete with a jump scare ending. Ooh, this is also graphic enough that I'm not actually sure if we can actually show it here on YouTube. Now, already this would be odd enough. Finding a video of a nightmare you just had is spooky, but what makes this even spookier is that the tape is dated November 27th, 1997, the day we are currently on in this story. And yet, despite this, Victor doesn't directly remember seeing this or making this tape. At this point, Victor feels like he's going insane, and he starts messaging his totally real online GF again. In new chat messages, we see that he's starting to freak out and asks her to come over because he feels like he's losing his mind. She agrees and says she'll be there in a couple of hours. I mean, this isn't the police, but at least Victor's calling someone, right? But well, we never see exactly what happens after this. All of a sudden, we fast forward to the next day, but we don't get another tape from Victor. Instead, we're shown a news report detailing that, in a surprise to no one, Victor's parents and brother are dead. Victor has been taken into custody as the primary suspect based on overwhelming evidence, and officers say they found a bloody paring knife in the sink, which they suspect to be the murder weapon. The family appears to have been dead for several days, and Victor was found huddled and crying over them.
He noticed us, he frantically motioned towards an empty corner, insisting someone there had murdered his family. He said, "She did this. She lied to me, she this."
Next to Victor was one final VHS tape labeled Sumicido 613, which he said he had no idea where it came from. On it, there's a series of disturbing videos of various monsters, followed by one final chat log between Victor and Sumicido. She reveals that she's in the basement, which is probably why Victor finally went down there. We cut to footage from his camcorder as he makes his way to the basement, as a female voice calls out to him. Cue the scariest jump scare of the series, and yeah, that's it. Classic analog horror stuff, right? But while it's super spoopy, what exactly was going on here? How deep can we dig into this? So, the first thing we should probably talk about, who exactly killed Victor's family? Well, Victor's taking the fall, but Victor also insists that it was Sumicido. So, who's actually to blame? Well, Victor does a lot of things that immediately makes him suspicious. Like, I know horror movie protagonists are often supposed to do some pretty dumb things to keep the story going, but my God, Victor waited days to contact anyone about his family disappearing, to the point that it was Thanksgiving. You know, the holiday famous for spending time with family, and didn't do a gosh darn thing about it. And that's without mentioning that the murder weapon, a bloody paring knife, was found in the kitchen sink, somewhere we know Victor would have seen because he kept going to the kitchen every morning to get his thermos of coffee. Not only would a normal person have called the police a dozen times over at this point, but Victor thinks he should call the police and doesn't. That's not exactly something an innocent person would do. And then there's the massive gaps in his memory, like there's an unreliable narrator, and then there's whatever the heck's happening with Victor. On multiple occasions, Victor has pretty big gaps in his knowledge and memory that should alarm him. And this is especially true of all of the camcorder tapes strewn about the house that he had no recollection of making, despite being the filmmaking nerd in the household. And all of those tapes are weird, creepy, and borderline haunted. If I found any of these tapes randomly in my house, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, let alone think about anything else. So is Victor just lying about Sumicido killing his family and not him? Is this just some elaborate documentary he's making about his descent into insanity and how he actually killed his brother and parents? That's pretty dark, and while I do think it's a valid interpretation, I think that there's something else going on here. I mean, that should be pretty obvious with all of the weird, monstrous imagery going on, and the ghostly whispers and demonic howling heard all throughout the house. See, Victor may have killed his parents, but it may not have been the real Victor. And the key to understanding this? The chat log usernames. Let me explain. So, okay, yeah, just to head this off, a lot of the usernames created by people the age of these characters might not necessarily be the most thought out. I mean, I knew what I was doing when I created my Glacier Dragon 2002 email when I was 9, but can you really really read that much into these? Absolutely. And not only should we, but they hide some really juicy lore. First up, Victor's username, Beelzebubba, is clearly meant to be a riff on the name Beelzebub. If you don't know, Beelzebub is the name of a demon in a lot of Christian belief. To some, it's just another name for Satan, but in other interpretations of demonology, Beelzebub is its own character entirely, a demon in his own right. And not just any demon, but one of the 7 princes of hell, each representing a different one of the 7 deadly sins. Though there is some disagreement, most people believe that Beelzebub represents either envy or gluttony. But why does that matter? Couldn't this play on Beelzebub just be a dark, edgy username of a dark, edgy teenager in this dark, edgy story? Maybe. That's what I thought at first too, until you also consider the other username in this chat. So if you do some searching, Sumicido doesn't really mean anything, but myself and a lot of other theorists online realized that this collection of letters is also an anagram. And if you decode the letters, it spells Asmodeus. Now, if you're like me and really into occult lore or sunk a couple hundred hours into Baldur's Gate 3, this name should absolutely be ringing a bell. But Asmodeus is way more than just a D&D character. He's a real-life demon in real-life religions. And in fact, he's often considered king of the demons, one of the lords of the hells, and a representative of the sin of lust. All of a sudden, that seems very relevant to this story about a boy who can't stop thinking about a girl, doesn't it? Also worth noting here that Asmodeus appears in the Old Testament of the Bible in the book of Tobit. In it, Asmodeus is tormenting a woman named Sarah, killing each and every one of her suitors on their wedding night so that she is blamed for their deaths. I mean, come on! This is exactly what Victor is claiming happened here in ASL, just with his family instead of his lovers. It's just too perfect to say that there isn't a connection between Sumicido and Asmodeus, and that it wasn't intentional. And once this connection to demons got cemented in my head, I couldn't stop seeing demon or devil or hell imagery popping up all over ASL. Like, for instance, in the section of the series where Victor is looking at the Betamax tapes, one of them is titled Self-Portrait, but it's just a video of a fireplace, fire and brimstone, just like hell. Then there's also the fact that in his dream, Victor finds the basement incredibly warm.
I was in my basement. It was pitch black, and it was hot, like a furnace.
Unbearably hot, like a furnace, just like hell. Another smaller connection that's admittedly a bit of a stretch could even be the name of the series itself, ASL. While yes, this is obviously a reference to the term age, sex, location like we already talked about, these letters can also be online slang for as hell. And even if that one is just like a bit too much of a stretch for you, this one is extra crazy. In the final tape discovered near Victor towards the end of the series, there's some spooky audio that sounds a heck of a lot like an exorcism, the removal of a demon from one's body. Yeah, you hear that? It sounds like a demonic voice followed by a man speaking over it, very similar to real-world exorcisms. Clearly, demons are all over this story, and this tells us exactly what happened to Victor and his family. Obviously, a demon is involved in this story, posing as Sumicido 613, but she's not just any demon. Either she's Asmodeus or one of his minions, and believe it or not, but there's one particular type of demon that fits this bill perfectly. See, in a lot of modern demonology and in some interpretations of older mythology, Asmodeus is connected to a type of demon known as a succubus. A succubus, or succubi, are demons that take human form, typically female, and are said to appear to men to seduce them. How they do this varies from source to source, or interpretation to interpretation. Sometimes they just appear in a man's dreams. Other times they're literal physical entities that will, lay with a man. In some stories, this is fatal for the man, as the succubus drains their life force away. In others, they just want to inflict harm and torture their victims. But no matter what version of a succubus we're working with, if Sumicido is a succubus, all of a sudden, a whole lot more of this series makes sense. The long-distance relationship, the name ASL, just how distracted and enchanted Victor seemed by Sumicido, why he doesn't call for help, the username being connected to the demon Prince of Lust, his dreams suddenly taking a demonic turn. term. Even the weird double of Victor fits. See, though a succubus typically takes the form of a woman, in a lot of stories, they can shapeshift into any form. What we're seeing in this tape wasn't a weird ghost or double of Victor, it was the succubus Sumisido taking his form. Probably just like she did when she killed his parents with that paring knife to make sure he took the fall for it. In the end, the story of ASL is a tragedy. For Victor, a lonely kid living in New Jersey, getting attention from someone like Sumisido must have felt like a godsend. Here's a person you can't stop thinking about, that you literally dreamed about, and she's giving you the time of day? But slowly she manipulated him, deceived him, and sucked him in. And in the end, she took everything from Victor, luring him down into the basement to take the blame for her own dirty work. All in the name of the demon prince of lust, Asmodeus. Guess that really goes to show, be careful who you trust on the internet. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Up next on Film Theory, one of the scariest analog horror series on the entire internet has finally returned. Duolingo has lore. Wait, hold on. Duolingo has lore? Like the language learning app? Yeah, you heard that right, and this cute little owl is doing more than kidnapping people and breaking knees to get you to learn Portuguese. Nah, his endgame? Saving the world. Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory, the show where you're a theorist or you fear us. So normally this is where I'd ask you guys if you'd heard of the subject of today's theory, Duolingo. But honestly, I'm almost certain you have, because this theory has been requested for months. Yeah, in our comments and on the subreddit, you loyal theorists have been asking us to look into the lore of this app, and y'all delivered. Because of your recommendations, we've actually been kicking around this theory for a while now, trying to find the best way to approach it. And I mean, with their mascot duo faking his death in February, trying to get people to do more of their lessons, now is a better time than ever to dive into the story they've been building over there. And best of all, Duolingo themselves actually reached out and asked us if we wanted to partner and sponsor a video, and with everything going on, the timing could not be more perfect. If you somehow don't know, Duolingo is a language learning app that helps you learn different languages at your own pace. Whether you're a complete noob, someone who's taken years of classes, or a fluent speaker, Duolingo's courses offer something to help you learn or just sharpen your skills. And their language variety is huge. You can learn everything from German to Arabic to Japanese to Hawaiian. They even have courses for Klingon for all us fantasy and sci-fi nerds out there. So now, all of that, it's great, cool, awesome even. But the longer you use the app, the more you realize that its little characters are, well, actual characters. Through its interactive features like stories and radio, you realize that they have names, backstories, loves, hates, dreams, and fears. But none have more character or story than Duolingo's main mascot, Duo the Owl. Yeah, if you haven't seen, Duo's become something of a meme in recent years, bothering learners through push notifications, phone widgets desperately trying to get your attention, and just off-the-wall marketing.
Hi, Duo again. Missed your Korean lesson. Know what happens now?
Yeah, Duo is very passionate about making sure you do your lessons, no matter what. But now, as of the writing of this theory, Duolingo has announced that Duo the Owl has passed away, probably, quote, waiting for you to do your lessons. To the sadness of the internet, pop singer Dua Lipa and Master Chief from Halo. Yes, really. By the time this video's out, he'll have miraculously come back, I'm sure, and please forgive me, it takes us weeks to actually make videos. But I wanted to take this opportunity to finally dive into the lore of Duolingo, and what I found? Well, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Let's just say that all of the increasingly crazy stunts and desperation for you to learn your languages might be because Duo sees a dark future for us, and he's trying to save the world. Take 5 minutes to do your language lesson, loyal theorists, and let's talk this one through. So to start out with, let's go over the baseline universe here in the Duolingo app, because like I mentioned at the top of the episode, there's a whole world of characters in here. Now when
It's 9:15. How am I already underwater?
I'm in the same boat.
I'm in an actual boat.
I thought Grammarly just fixed grammar. They make boats now?
It's more of a metaphorical boat, because I've been using Grammarly's AI for years to keep me high and dry. Try it. Grammarly can look through your writing to make it easier to understand. See? Shorter,
Whoa,
clearer,
cool.
and better. Now people will get what you're trying to say, and you won't be flooded with confused emails.
Can you do mine?
No problem. Your writing's good, but your word choices could be better.
Wow.
Now your writing is as confident as you are.
Oh, well, what about our proposal?
Let me take a look. Woof, you'll be in deep water if you show this to the CEO. Grammarly can point out what's missing. Right there. The CEO will want to see a deadline. And here you should connect the projections back to company strategy.
Yeah, how could I do that? Mia, can you do a deep dive?
On it. 10% higher revenue by next year.
I'm sending it in.
The CEO loves it. Budget and headcount are approved.
Let's get everyone on board. I meant figuratively. Download Grammarly for free.
We use Shopify for everything.
We have our core system that captures information for customers, runs our website, and have an extension of that with Shopify POS.
We're able to understand our customer online, but also in store.
Now, when diving into the actual lore, the best way to start was by jumping into the app itself. And thankfully, there are features that really give us insights into the characters, and a lot of it is just really cute. For instance, some of the Duolingo radio segments have us listening to podcast interviews between some of the characters, and one of them was about watching movies with family.
Kevin, tell us about watching movies with your grandma.
You know, we just love to hear that here on Film Theory. Elsewhere, in the stories segments of the app, we see little storylines involving the characters play out, including one with Jock Eddie going on a date, only to realize that he completely misread the situation.
Do you always talk about work so much on a first date?
This isn't a date. It's a job interview.
In case you were wondering, Eddie did not get the job.
So, can I have the job?
Definitely not.
That's rough, buddy. So what can we glean from all of this? Well, first off, we realize that each of the characters here helping you learn to say things like Je suis un chat actually have names, relationships, and interests. Besides the mascot duo the Owl, you have the unenthused Lily and her best friend Zari, both of whom go to a school where Oscar teaches art and Eddie teaches gym. Eddie has a son named Junior, and they actually live in the same apartment building as Zari and their friend Vikram. Then there are the best friends Bee and Lynn, Lynn's grandmother Lucy, and my personal favorite character, Falstaff, the talking bear. He wears a scarf. I would die for him. There's a bunch of small stuff hidden in these stories that create a world here in the Duolingo verse. Junior owns a pet fishing parrot and has a crush on Lily. Lily really likes pirates and is allergic to horses. Zari loves cats but is afraid of parrots and spiders. That sort of thing. It's fun. Not much about Falstaff the bear though, other than the fact that he loves snacks, but I mean, that's just hashtag relatable. Anyway, these mini storylines continue out to other parts of Duolingo's marketing, like their YouTube channel.
Today on Lily's terrifying experiments in social awkwardness, it's Besos.
Yeah, if you head over to their YouTube, you'll find a series of animated shorts featuring each of the main Duolingo characters, teaching you quirks and factoids about communicating in other languages and cultures. They're fun, but if you browse through the other videos on this page, you'll start seeing, well, the videos start getting stranger and stranger. They're trailers for parody TV shows.
In Duo's kitchen, it's either speak Italian,
Non parlo italiano,
or get chopped like scallions.
That is a sharp knife, chef.
Or a parody anime intro called Lost in Translation. Or a 2-hour lo-fi live stream. Huh, that's a great idea, isn't it? Yeah, okay. This is really the green-feathered elephant in the room when you're talking about Duolingo lore and why everyone was so keen on us covering this stuff. If you somehow haven't seen it yet, the Duolingo mascot Duo the Owl is pretty much a viral megastar at this point, all because of crazy videos like this.
The only thing I want on Christmas Day is my mom and dad who were taken away by an owl with a BBL who said I should have studied.
Wait, what? Yeah, if you go and look, the story for Duolingo involving their beloved mascot, Duo the Owl, has become, eye-catching is a word, unhinged is another, but certainly effective. And this is what prompted everyone to ask us to cover this series. But the more I dug into it, the more I realized that Duo didn't become this unsettling force of nature overnight. No, this has been a long time coming, and we just didn't see it. Early on, Duo was a very chill dude. He was more of an encouraging, enthusiastic coach than anything else, cheering on and guiding learners to complete their daily Duolingo lessons. So, how did Duo start a descent into darkness? Well, according to Duolingo's chief design officer, Ryan Sims,
the number one thing Duo wants most in the entire world is for you to do your lesson today.
And the longer and longer Duo felt this way, the more passionately and seriously he took it. Like, if you add the Duolingo widget to your phone home screen, Duo will start the day pretty chill. But the longer and longer you wait, and the closer and closer to midnight it gets, the more stressed and desperate Duo becomes. Thanks to push notifications, Duo was able to remind learners to do their lessons, but if you've lapsed on your lessons or missed a few, he started guilt-tripping you, sending emails with him crying to the inboxes of his lost students. And if you completely fell off, he'd send another notification stating simply, "These reminders don't seem to be working." The message from Duo was clear. If you stopped learning, not only are you a quitter, but your actions really hurt his feelings. Now, first off, I think this is hilarious, and it definitely got a conversation around the app started. And to play devil's advocate for Duo the Owl here, languages are really hard to learn without consistent practice. And while guilt-tripping might not be the best long-term strategy, it is effective for getting short-term results. And more or less, it did work, and it eventually became a bit of a meme, which Duo embraced wholeheartedly, changing his future forever. In an animation called Duo's Day at Work, we're shown a typical workday for Duo the Owl. Normally, he's tirelessly texting friendly reminders to learners all over the globe, and suddenly, a lot of what we actually see in the app makes way more sense. Like, some of the exercises encourage us by saying, "We advise you to use Duolingo every day." That checks out if it's Duo the Owl as the one poking us to continue our streaks and sending these messages out, right? Though some of these also get a bit too honest, like the green owl is trying to come up with some new sentences. At least he's being honest. Anyway, when they ignore him and refuse to ignite their streaks, well, he has to try something different, and instead he dons a giant Duo mech costume to go out into the real world. Yes, that is a thing that actually happens in this marketing. We see the results of this in an April Fool's 2019 ad for a fake feature called Duolingo Push, which, I mean, just watch this.
Since Duolingo can be used wherever you are, now Duolingo Push can remind you wherever you are.
Yeah, this feature would allow Duo to stalk and annoy users who tried to put off their studies no matter where they were. Work, the gym, on a date. Not exactly the wingman I'm looking for, my guy. But this is just the beginning. He would soon monitor his learners even more closely, flying drones in front of the homes of lapsed learners and projecting unignorable notifications on their buildings. When the menacing seemed to wear off and people started ignoring him again, Duo took a cue from Red from Angry Birds, yes, those Angry Birds, I guess birds of a feather do flock together, and began having vivid fantasies about threatening people who ignored his notifications. Though in reality, he was just slamming a bowl of peanuts onto the ground. That's admittedly not groundbreaking terror, but there's clearly the beginning of an escalation here. Along with his psychological warfare, Duo is starting to think about using physical violence to force people to learn languages. These frustrations also started coming through in the actual exercises of the app as well. Yeah, some of the phrases spoken to learners during Duolingo's basic listening and reading comprehension exercises on the learning path were things like, "I hate everybody, and you in particular. To live is to suffer," and "I cry and think about sad things." Sometimes even phrases like, "Duo used to love me." Clearly, this was Duo trying to communicate his sadness and frustration with listeners, but to no avail, because he takes things to the next level. Shortly after this, by March of 2022, people started disappearing, in a purely fictional sense of course, and there was only one person to blame, Duo the Owl.
Have you been physically or emotionally injured by Duolingo?
And even worse, he was stealing Funko Pops.
Duo took my family. Next, he took my Funko Pop collection.
True horror. This is also the first place where a lot of Duo's comical threats appeared, including Japanese or broken knees, Latin or be flattened, and of course, Spanish or vanish. All of this carries the hilarious implication that the language you decide to learn will determine your punishment in the eyes of Duo should you fall off. Anyways, so many people and action figures had been harassed or just straight up disappeared that the fictional law firm Minchetti & Sons began a crusade against Duo the Owl. Though Duolingo themselves called these claims lies and false information, and that they were filing a cease and desist order against the law firm. Most importantly though, Duolingo says you should definitely not call the phone number from this ad.
Text or call Minchetti & Sons now at 781-STOP-OWL.
Yep, do not under any circumstances call that number. But, I mean, come on, we had to call that number. And sadly, it's no longer active. But other people had the same idea and called it ages ago, playing a silly voice message that ultimately just led back to the Duolingo website. Have to say, seems suspicious, almost like Duo somehow got a hold of these people and was redirecting hate. But sadly, that's where this particular thread ends. Now, at this point, a lot of the story starts repeating itself. Duo wants more people to keep up their streaks and learn their languages, and resorts to increasingly unhinged ways of getting attention. He started a campaign to win pop star Dua Lipa's affections, befriended Hootie from the Owl House to maximize his star power, walked the pink carpet at the Barbie movie premiere, produced a parody Netflix-style reality show called Love Language, partnered with Squid Game to kidnap lapsed learners, and revealed during the 2024 Super Bowl that he had a BBL. Yes, the Duolingo Owl canonically has a Brazilian butt lift. If you don't know what that is, ask your parents. He also
Ito, ang seafood sarap na binabalik-balikan. Nisin kasi yan.
He also started getting more out of pocket with the actual content in the Duolingo app, sending out challenges that started toying around with his darker interests. Like, how? Well, he started to warn learners that there's a man with a knife behind the curtain, and early tomorrow morning I will be at your door. Which surely had more than a few people looking over their shoulders. He even admitted to crimes, confessing, I can be a bad boy. Whoa there, Duo, you might want to keep that to yourself. But the single biggest push Duo has been making during his crusade against Duolingo dropouts, using music to reach out to them. And that makes sense. Psychologists and anthropologists believe that music is a complex yet approachable way that societies pass on their cultures, and that music can shape the world on both an individual and societal level. So, using music as a way to get people interested in language, that's absolutely a valid strategy. Though Duo's approach has been, uniquely threatening. This whole part of the saga started with the introduction of Duolingo on Ice, and its biggest hit, Spanish or Vanish. And just a quick aside, but this song has the lyric, which translates to, I love human flesh. I think Duo's out for a little bit more than just blood at this point. Anyway, this was just the beginning of Duo's adventures with music. If you dive deep onto the SeatGeek website, this fictional musical actually has a full page detailing his entire set list of threats. Gotta say, I'm partial to Portuguese or the authorities, and you've mama'd your last Mia myself. And several additional songs were also released on Spotify, including the Hamilton-inspired French or the Trench, and, okay, I'll try. Ich bin ein Handschuh-Schneeballwerfer. Yeah, there's no way.
Ich bin ein Handschuh-Schneeballwerfer.
That's the German word for people who need gloves to make snowballs, and it's basically just slang for coward. And also, just to keep up the snowy theme, but Duo even released a freaking Christmas album. You gotta love it. So that's a lot. Duo is now keeping an eye on his learners through push notifications on their phones, through drones flying through cities, by stalking them in the streets, and now with some irresistibly catchy music. But why? What could possibly be the reason for Duo to head down this darker path that we followed here today, becoming more and more nefarious in his antics? Honestly, what we've seen here makes him seem way more like a villain than the anti-hero he's claimed to be. So what's his motivation? Why is he doing all of this? Well, it comes down to one simple thing. When you look at what Duo actually is, it explains everything. See, while Duo the Owl is, well, an owl, he shares a lot in common with another real-world animal, the kakapo, aka the owl parrot. This is a bird from New Zealand that also happens to be one of the most endangered birds in the world. And I mean, just look at this guy. He looks exactly like Duo. They're both round, fluffy green birds with cute little legs and tiny wings. Even the little lining around their faces is basically the same. But their similarities go further than just the visual. See, the kakapo is a flightless bird. Best they can do is glide short distances, which as we all know is just falling with style. And Duo? Well, he struggles in that department too. Within the Duolingo app, you'll rarely see Duo airborne. He's much more about jumping or gliding. What you will see from him, however, is great difficulty getting his wings to support his weight, just like a kakapo. So, okay, Duo is a kakapo owl parrot. Why does that matter? Well, here's where things get interesting. See, this is a pretty broad overview, but the kakapo is a figure in the folklore of the Maori, the native people of New Zealand. And according to that folklore, the kakapo is believed to have a supernatural foresight into the future. This belief stems from the kakapo only mating when the rimu tree fruited, an event that only happens once every 4 years or so. The idea is that the kakapo could literally see the future and know when the trees were going to fruit, and knew when it was time to, well, you get it. And if you want even more proof that Duo the Owl is actually a kakapo with these foresight powers, this actually really happened to me in real life, but I myself got an unprompted email from Duolingo encouraging me to continue my streak, foreseeing that I would hit a 14-day streak. I mean, come on! But now, knowing this, if Duo is an endangered owl parrot with latent psychic abilities, suddenly everything makes way more sense. Why would Duo be doing all of these heinous things? Spanish or vanish, Korean or not be seen, French or the trench. He's desperately trying to get people to learn languages because he knows something we don't. He sees something awful coming with his foresight and wants to avoid it. A dystopian future where humanity doesn't talk to each other anymore. And I mean, just look around. Every day, it feels like society is shifting further and further into isolation. Echo chambers have trapped us and global communication is breaking down. He's even tried to straight up warn us about what he sees going on in the world in the app. In other exercises on the learning path, he's told us that the government of the country is not very effective at the moment. And today there is no good news in the newspaper. And worse still, why is the government giving so much false information to the public? Remember, according to the Duo's Day at Work animation, Duo is canonically the one sending out these translations. He's the one sending these warnings because he's almost certainly seen this exact thing happen before. After he died, an in memoriam post from Duolingo's social media accounts revealed that Duo was born over 3,000 years ago, in the year 1000 BC. That in and of itself was a bit of a curveball, but that means that he's witnessed the rise and fall of numerous civilizations, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Mayans, and he doesn't want to see it happen again. And the solution is painfully simple. If we learn new languages, if we take the effort to communicate and learn about foreign cultures, expanding our horizons with new words and ideas and concepts, that teaches us so much more than just how to say, I want sushi in Japanese. That helps us grow as people and become closer together, and it is working. We see this through the characters inside of the Duolingo-verse. Like, check this out. If we go back to the Duolingo YouTube page, you'll find some videos like I Hate Christmas, which features the character Lily talking about how much she, well, hates Christmas.
You couldn't pay me to go to your ugly sweater party.
That doesn't particularly sound like someone who enjoys to communicate, let alone go outside. And yet, Lily is all about talking to us in the Duolingo app, where you can literally call her to help practice your languages with the Call with Lily feature. She is literally connecting with you to help you learn about other peoples and cultures and languages. And that right there is ultimately Duo's goal. Why he bothers us with push notifications, encourages us to keep up our streaks, and now why he's gone out into the world to make sure that you keep learning, or else. But hey, once again, I want to thank Duolingo for reaching out to sponsor this video. Please add me on Duolingo to start your language learning journey and help me keep up my streak. Please, send help. And as always, remember that it's all just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
Loose trick ba? Fuel for adventure! Nagdo ka na? Do the do? Play the do! Fuel up na in 3, 2, 1!
Okay, I think last night muna to kasi kunti lang naman ang daragdag sa ano. Tandaan is meron ano to, meron ding pwede shelf B, pero di ko magagamit muna yan kasi wala pa tayo additional fruits. Tapos konti yung mga electric products, additional perks, and nothing else. So parang after, let's say after 1 month na ulit, ganun ito. Yeah. Okay, tapos na. Baka na-start na ulit.